The ancient Egyptians believed that death was not the end, but rather the beginning of a new journey. To prepare for this journey, they created a remarkable book filled with spells and illustrations, known as the Book of the Dead. This book was one of the most important and influential texts in ancient Egyptian culture, and it continues to captivate and fascinate people today. In this video, we will explore the history, themes, and legacy of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead is an ancient Egyptian funerary text that was used to help the deceased navigate the afterlife. But where did it come from, and how did it evolve over time? In this section, we will explore the history and evolution of the Book of the Dead. The origins of the Book of the Dead can be traced back to the New Kingdom period of ancient Egyptian history, which lasted from around 1550 BCE to 1070 BCE. The earliest known version of the book is the coffin texts, which were written on the coffins and sarcophagi of the deceased. These texts contained spells and prayers that were intended to help the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. Over time, the coffin texts evolved into the pyramid texts, which were inscribed on the walls of royal tombs. The pyramid texts were more elaborate than the coffin texts and contained more spells and prayers. They were written in hieroglyphics and were intended to be recited by priests during funerary rituals. The Book of the Dead, as we know it today, began to take shape in the third intermediate period of ancient Egyptian history, which lasted from around 1070 BCE to 712 BCE. During this time, the spells and prayers that had been used in the coffin texts and pyramid texts were collected and compiled into a single book. This book was written on papyrus scrolls and was personalized for each individual. The spells and prayers were intended to help the deceased on their journey to the afterlife and were recited by priests during funerary rituals. The Book of the Dead continued to evolve over time, with new spells and illustrations being added to it. Some versions of the book were more elaborate than others and contained more spells and illustrations. The most elaborate versions of the book were reserved for the wealthiest and most powerful members of society. The Book of the Dead was an important part of ancient Egyptian funerary rituals. The spells and prayers in the book were recited by priests during the funeral and burial of the deceased. The book was buried with the deceased in their tombs, along with other funerary goods and offerings. Examples of the Book of the Dead include the Papyrus of Ani, which dates to the 19th dynasty of ancient Egypt. The Papyrus of Ani is 78 feet long and contains a wealth of spells and illustrations. Other examples of the Book of the Dead include the Papyrus of Hunefer and the Papyrus of Nu. The Book of the Dead was an influential text in ancient Egyptian culture and had a lasting impact on later cultures. The Greeks and Romans were fascinated by Egyptian culture and incorporated elements of it into their own belief systems. The Book of the Dead is a rich source of symbolism and imagery that reflects ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. In this section, we will explore some of the key themes and symbols in the Book of the Dead and their significance. 1. The journey to the afterlife. One of the central themes of the Book of the Dead is the journey to the afterlife. The book contains spells and prayers that were intended to help the deceased navigate the dangers of the afterlife and reach the field of reeds, a paradise where they could live forever. The journey to the afterlife was fraught with peril, and the spells in the book were meant to protect the deceased from demons and other malevolent entities. 2. Ma'at is the ancient Egyptian concept of order, balance and justice. It was believed that the universe was maintained by the principle of Ma'at, and that it was the duty of every individual to uphold Ma'at in their daily lives. In the Book of the Dead, Ma'at is often depicted as a goddess who weighs the heart of the deceased against a feather. If the heart is lighter than the feather, the deceased is allowed to enter the afterlife. If the heart is heavier than the feather, the deceased is devoured by a monster. 3. The Four Sons of Horus. The Four Sons of Horus were a group of deities who were believed to protect the internal organs of the deceased. Each of the four sons was associated with a specific organ: Imseti with the liver, Hapi with the lungs, Duamutef with the stomach, and Kebesenuef with the intestines. The four sons of Horus are often depicted in the Book of the Dead as mummified figures standing at the four corners of the sarcophagus. 4. Anubis. Anubis is the jackal-headed god of mummification and the afterlife. He was responsible for embalming the deceased and guiding them to the afterlife. In the Book of the Dead, Anubis is often depicted as a figure with the head of a jackal and the body of a human. He is sometimes shown weighing the heart of the deceased against a feather as a part of the judgment process. 5. Osiris was the god of the afterlife and the ruler of the underworld. He was believed to be the judge of the deceased and was responsible for determining their fate in the afterlife. In the Book of the Dead, Osiris is often depicted as a mummified figure with green skin, symbolizing rebirth and regeneration. These are just a few of the many themes and symbols present in the Book of the Dead. Each spell and illustration in the book is rich with meaning and significance, reflecting the complex belief system of ancient Egyptian culture. By understanding the themes and symbols in the Book of the Dead, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the beliefs and values of this fascinating civilization. The Book of the Dead has had a lasting impact on world culture and continues to captivate people to this day. In this section, we will explore the legacy and influence of the Book of the Dead. 1. Impact on ancient Egyptian society. The Book of the Dead was a central part of ancient Egyptian religion and had a significant impact on society at the time. The book was believed to provide a path to the afterlife for the deceased, and it was often buried with them in their tombs. The spells and illustrations in the book were also believed to have a protective function, helping the deceased navigate the dangers of the afterlife. 2. Influence on Western art and literature. The Book of the Dead has been a source of inspiration for Western artists and writers for centuries. In the 19th century, the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which allowed scholars to decipher ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, sparked renewed interest in ancient Egyptian culture. This led to a surge of interest in the Book of the Dead, and many artists and writers began incorporating Egyptian themes and motifs into their work. Some notable examples include the works of Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and Gustave Flaubert. 3. Impact on popular culture. The Book of the Dead has also had a significant impact on popular culture. It has been referenced in numerous films, television shows, and video games, often as a source of mystery and intrigue. Some notable examples include the films The Mummy and Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the television show Stargate SG-1, and the video game Assassin's Creed Origins. 4. Continued importance in modern Egyptology. Despite being thousands of years old, the Book of the Dead continues to play an important role in modern Egyptology. Scholars continue to study the book and its illustrations, seeking to unlock the secrets of ancient Egyptian culture and religion. Advances in technology have also made it possible to better understand and preserve the book, allowing future generations to continue to learn from it.